Hi everyone, welcome to Wisdom Tutorials. My name is Rohit Singh. Today I am going to explain you a very interesting topic. Let us start. You might have observed the panels of your windows, the cans in which we have soft drinks, sometimes the foil that we use to wrap food items, also the utensils. Now children, looking at all of these examples, can you guess what is common in all of them? Very good. They are all made up of aluminium. But children, the question arises how these articles are actually obtained. And to understand this, we need to understand a process called as extraction of aluminium. So how does that start? It actually starts from dust particles. And these dust particles, they are collected from the mines. Now let us begin with the journey of extracting aluminium. Now, aluminium is extracted from its mineral ore. Name of that mineral ore is called as bauxite. Children, bauxite has a chemical formula Al2O3 dot NH2O. You might be wondering why there is dot in between there. Why there is a variable N over here. Let me tell you the reason behind this. Now, whenever you have a big formula, internally, where you have two different small formulas, they are separated by using dot in between. And why the variable n? Simple. The level of moisture keeps on changing. Now, the level of moisture keeps on changing, hence we have used the variable n. Now, this mineral bauxite, it has two different components, which has a formula Al2O3 dot NH2O. It has two different components. Let us understand what are the components, two different components. The very first component is pure bauxite. Pure bauxite has a formula Al2O3 dot 2H2O, and the another component is the impurities. Now children, impurities, they are also called as damage. How many types of impurities does it have? It has three different types of impurities. Let us understand the names of the impurities. The very first and the primary impurity, it is silica dioxide. Formula for silica dioxide is SiO2. The second most important impurity, that is gangue, it is sand particle. And the last but not the least, the last impurity is ferric oxide, which has a formula Fe2O3. Once again, mineral bauxite is an ore of aluminum. It has two different components, the pure bauxite and the gangue particles. Now, what we are supposed to do? We are supposed to obtain aluminium from that mineral bauxite. And to obtain aluminium from the mineral bauxite, there are two different steps. The first step is called as concentration of bauxite, whereas the second step is called as electrolytic reduction of aluminium. Let us understand the very first step, that is concentration of bauxite. Now, in this step, concentration of bauxite, what is done? The mineral ore is crushed. It is converted into small pieces, small particles, and this crushed ore, they are added in a tank. The tank is called as digester. Now in this tank, the crushed ore is added step by step, and then after adding the crushed ore, we add on sodium hydroxide. Children, sodium hydroxide is also called as caustic soda. Then this mixture is boiled at a tremendous high temperature of 140 degrees Celsius to 150 degrees Celsius. This reaction takes place for 2 to 8 hours, and this is done at a very high pressure. Once again, the mineral ore is crushed, it is added in a tank. The tank is called as digester. The reaction takes place. We are supposed to boil that, and this boiling takes place at 140 to 150 degrees Celsius. and this is done for 2 to 8 hours under very high pressure. Now, let us understand what happened when you add on that crushed mineral ore. See, if you remember, the crushed mineral ore has two different components, pure bauxite and the impurities. What do we want? We want aluminium. Where is the metal aluminium? It is present in the pure bauxite. What we don't want these impurities. So we are supposed to remove these impurities. Hence, the process is removal of gangue. Let us understand how the gangue particles are removed completely. Now, if you try to recollect, there were three different gangue particles. The first gangue particle was silica dioxide. What was the formula for silica dioxide? It was SiO2. The second gangue particle was ferric oxide. Formula for ferric oxide is Fe2O3. And the third gangue particle was sand. Now what we did, we crushed that mineral bauxite and we added it into the tank. That means along with that bauxite, even these gangue particles will get added in the tank. Now what happens when these gangue particles, they react with sodium hydroxide? Let us consider the first example, that is silica dioxide. Silica dioxide, which has a formula SiO2, when this is reacted with sodium hydroxide, what happens? It makes water soluble sodium silicate. The property says it is water soluble. We are not supposed to remove that externally. We add some more amount of water that will get dissolved completely. मतलब पहला गैंज is removed. We are left with two more gauge particles, ferric oxide, that is Fe2O3, and sand particles. Now this ferric oxide and the sand particles, they do not react with NaOH. Question arises, why they do not react with NaOH? Sand has similar properties with NaOH, so sand does not react. But what about ferric oxide, children? Ferric, that means iron. Iron is a metal. Ferric oxide being a metal oxide, tell me what is the nature of a metal oxide? Correct. Metal oxides are basic in nature. NaOH itself is a base. Two bases cannot react with each other. They turn to be a mixture. Hence what we do, we remove these two gangue particles by the process of filtration. Now all the gangue particles are removed completely. Let us focus on our bauxite ore. If you recollect the formula for bauxite, the formula for bauxite was Al2O3 dot 2H2. And what we did, we added that in a tank which was already filled with NaOH. That means now the reaction will take place between the pure bauxite and NaOH. So when this pure bauxite reacts with NaOH, that is caustic soda, it makes sodium aluminate. Now sodium aluminate has a formula NaAlO2 along with water. Now children, if you try to observe this equation, you will find that this equation is a skeletal equation. Now what do you mean by skeletal equation? This equation is an unbalanced equation. Let us count the number of atoms on the left hand side and the right hand side. The number of atoms of aluminium on the left hand side is 2. But the number of atoms of aluminium on the right hand side is 1. So what we are supposed to do? We will multiply 2 on the right hand side so that the aluminium atoms will be balanced. Let us multiply 2 on the right hand side. Now the moment I multiply 2 with the formula sodium aluminate, the bajuwala sodium, it got affected. Now the right hand side has 2 atoms of sodium, but the left hand side has only 1 atom of sodium. Now what we will do? We will multiply 2 on the left hand side. So now in this equation you can see even sodium is balanced. Let us understand the number of atoms for hydrogen. On the left hand side if you see, there are 4 atoms of hydrogen with bauxite And there are two atoms of hydrogen with sodium hydroxide. How many total number of hydrogen atoms do we have? 4 plus 2 is 6. What about the right hand side? Right hand side has only 2 atoms of hydrogen. So what we will do? अगर 2 को 6 बनाना है तो क्या करना पड़ेगा? We will multiply 3. So if I multiply 3 with the water molecule, what happens? The entire equation is now a balanced equation. अच्छा इतने बड़े प्रोसेस में we forget कि हम लोग कर क्या रहे थे. We were about to extract aluminium, and aluminium is present in sodium aluminate. So let us focus on this sodium aluminate. Now this sodium aluminate with formula NaAlO2 is further hydrolyzed. Children, when I say hydrolyzed, that means it is added in water. That means the reaction takes place between sodium aluminate and water. So sodium being a metal, when combines with water, it makes sodium hydroxide. Aluminate that has a formula of aluminium and oxygen, when it combines with water, it makes aluminium hydroxide. Now this aluminium hydroxide is obtained as a precipitate. Now this precipitate is not at all useful for us. So what we do? We filter this precipitate. We remove the excess amount of impurities. Then what we do? We wash this precipitate. After washing, we don't want the water molecule. So what we do? We go for drying that. But during the process of drying, only the upper molecule of water is removed. What about the molecules of water which are present inside the particle? They are removed by the process of igniting. So what we do? We go for igniting this aluminium hydroxide. So when you ignite this aluminium hydroxide, what happens? Hydro gets removed. Water molecules are removed. And the water molecules are removed, we get aluminium oxide. And this ignition temperature is 1000 degrees Celsius. That means aluminium hydroxide is heated at 1000 degrees Celsius to obtain aluminium oxide, which has a chemical formula Al2O3. Children, if you observe this equation, still even this equation is an unbalanced equation. तो क्या करना पड़ेगा? Multiply करेंगे. Let us observe the number of atoms on left hand side. Left hand side has one atom of aluminium, but the right hand side has two atoms of aluminium. What we will do? Simply we will multiply 2 on the left hand side. Chalo, aluminium is balanced. What about hydrogen atoms, children? Earlier, there were 3 hydrogen atoms with the formula ALOH thrice. OH thrice, that means H was 3. We multiplied it by 2. That means now we have 6 atoms of hydrogen. But on the right hand side, we have only 2 atoms of hydrogen. Now, if I want to make 6 to this 2 atoms of hydrogen, what I will do? I will simply multiply this atoms by 3. So we multiply this atom by 3 and now this equation is a balanced chemical equation. That's it for the day, children. Thank you so much. We'll meet in the next one.